More than 60 countries have now signed a statement saying all Afghans and other citizens who want to leave Afghanistan must be allowed to depart. They say those in power are responsible for the protection of life and property and the restoration of order. Graham Satchell reports on the latest developments.
On board a plane due to leave Kabul overnight, but at the last minute they're told the flight won't be going. Passengers are forced to rejoin the chaos outside. There is panic and fear everywhere. For 20 years, Afghanistan has had stability, democracy and relative safety. It's all ended in a matter of days. A lucky few have made it out. This is Delhi airport, and a mix of relief, anger and despair.
I can't believe the world abandoned Afghanistan. Our friends are going to get killed. They're going to kill us. Our women are not going to have any more rights.
The Taliban, forced from power by Western troops 2 decades ago, are back. They claim to have taken over every government department, including this, the presidential palace in Kabul. Just hours earlier, the former president Ashraf Ghani at the same desk. He's now fled to Uzbekistan. In a statement, he said he's left to avoid bloodshed. Kabul is a city on the move, residents desperate to escape. Fear of what is to come has gripped every level of society, including former government ministers.
Deep down in my heart, I keep telling myself I won't have to pay the price for joining a government position. But now I might face consequences that I never even dreamed of. And I guess that's the price that we pay for trying to make this world a little better than when we came to it, and particularly Afghanistan.
British troops have now arrived in Kabul to evacuate UK nationals and Afghans who worked with them. It's thought around 4,000 in total are eligible to be airlifted out. Criticism of the chaos now engulfing Afghanistan is widespread. Parliament will be recalled on Wednesday to debate the crisis. A protest outside the White House in Washington. America has long argued its troops couldn't stay in Afghanistan forever, and public opinion supports troop withdrawal. But serious questions are now being asked. Why was so much money spent, so many military lives lost, to simply allow the Taliban to walk back into power? The air over Kabul is full of helicopters as diplomats and embassy staff make their escape. On the ground, the people wait with growing fear.
Events have sent shockwaves around the world, not least in the United States, whose military has been in Afghanistan for 20 years. Pressure is mounting on politicians to explain how the country fell so quickly. Charlotte Bellis is live for us in Kabul. And Charlotte, let's start with the situation at the airport. Last time we talked, there were reports of gunfire, reports even that some people had been killed. What's the situation like there?
We're still trying to verify how these people have died. There was chaos in the last about 24 hours of people trying to get on planes, trying to get out. They essentially overwhelmed the airport security. Thousands of people flooding onto the tarmac, clamoring to try to get onto planes. There are stories of people just pushing past and sitting on a plane and waiting for a pilot to show up to fly them out. We understand the airport is under the security of international forces. So there are some questions about whether international forces were involved in the deaths of these civilians as they were trying to leave, or whether or not they were simply crushed in the stampede. Now, because of this, all flights have been cancelled, all civilian flights have been cancelled at least. The international forces have taken over the air traffic control, and they are just it's only military flights coming in and out, essentially evacuating international personnel, evacuating Americans, and then also evacuating people who have worked, Afghans who have worked with embassies and are associated with international groups, and people who may have worked as interpreters, that type of thing. As far as what's happening in Kabul city, well, it's pretty quiet. There are many Taliban on the streets. They are in the checkpoints. They are enforcing, as they say, security. We understand about 1,000 Taliban Special Forces units arrived last night to quote-unquote enforce security. They are in the presidential palace, as you said, and we understand that later today they will be holding a news conference where hopefully we can find out more about how they plan to govern, how Afghanistan's government will look, who will be in charge. They say that they are taking over the ministries today, putting people in different positions to start running the country.
When you listen, Charlotte, to the statement by the official in the presidential palace who handed over, I guess you could say, the keys to the Taliban last night, it's clear there was some level of coordination and agreement. How much of an agreement is there, or has there been so far, for a transfer of power? Is that clear at this point?
There had been negotiations about a transition plan, and as I understand it, the presidential palace was coming up with a transition plan, which was essentially just going to hand over power to the Taliban. Maybe they'd throw them some crumbs in the way, but the Taliban just had the military dominance at that point yesterday, and so could pretty much call the shots. They were meant to give that transition plan to the Taliban in Doha, who would choose whether or not to accept it, but all of that fell apart when Ghani fled the country, and the Taliban were left with all the cards and they just marched into town. And any government officials I've spoken to since have said, we've just left the office and we're just hiding at home and keeping a low profile. So as far as a formal transition, that never actually eventuated. The Taliban have just rolled in and taken the reins.